Welcome to Queer Link, episode 21. This week's guest is Ian Nguyen. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little about yourself.
So a little bit about myself. First and foremost, I am a proud Vietnamese trans woman.
Mm.
I've been living in New York for about 11 years now, originally from Pennsylvania. I am an actor, model, and a full-time goddess. Um, and yeah, I guess that's a little bit about me.
That's perfect. So, how has your experience been in New York City as a model and actor?
Um, Gosh, it's so hard to say because I'm still like a baby actor
Hmm.
and model. Like, I've really only been seriously pursuing acting, which is like my main thing that I'm really, really focusing on right now for about a year and a half. And so, as you know, we've been in like quarantine for like a year now. So, most of my training has been done through Zoom. Um, I've been fortunate enough to be able to like book a few roles. So I've been on set a few times for like a few short films and an indie feature film. So I was able to learn through there, but I still have so much more to learn. And same thing with modeling, you know, at the end of the day, it's really, really tough because only so many brands, so many production companies, so many writers are looking for an Asian trans woman, and people are barely looking for Asian people to begin with, or like casting roles for Asian people to begin with. And so to be Asian and trans, it's just like very slim pickings. So it's like when I do get an opportunity, in the beginning, I got very, very attached to it because I'm like, I don't know when the next one is going to come. Like I would maybe get an audition like every few months or something. And so, um, it's really really hard as you can imagine, so but I'm not giving up. I'm still have a lot of hope and determination, and through this process I really really learned that like you can't, or like I can't, and like as a queer person, trans person in general, like minority, we can't wait for these big studios, these white cis het writers to be writing roles for us. And so I really learned that we have to create these opportunities for ourselves as minority storytellers because no one else is going to do that. So um, I'm working on some things here and there, some personal projects here and there, collaborating people within the community, which has been so amazing. I recently got casted in this project that has a lot of potential, and I'm very, very excited for it. And it's a queer Asian story, so which is something we've never seen on TV before. So I'm really, really excited because it has the power to like change the world and culture,
And
and we just need it. Yeah.
that's incredible. And I know just this past year, just during the pandemic, you starred in three shorts and a feature. How just was that?
Yes.
And how was that? And just navigating COVID for the first time with it.
Honestly, it felt, I mean, the teams were all very, very small,
Hmm.
and everyone took precautions to like followed the guidelines and all of that. And so I never really felt like I was at risk. Everyone was very respectful and very, very accommodating and of everything that was going on. And we always got tested beforehand and stuff like that. So that's been interesting. And, of course, work has slowed down a lot with COVID.
Hmm.
But, still tried my best and to try to like figure out what I could do during this time. And I, signed up for a few studios. So I was taking classes during quarantine, and then I tried out for these roles and got casted for some of them, which
Yes.
has been so amazing. And then honestly, I'm like really, really proud of myself of what I've been able to do during quarantine. And um, there's only so much more to do, and I can't wait to do it.
That's great. No, that's great. It seems like you're just really in this like creative go get it kind of mode. It's
Yeah, for sure. I was like, the past month, I was, like, feeling a little burnt out, like, back in February, so, like,
Mhm,
this month has been the beginning has been a little quiet for me, which has been really nice,
mhm.
actually. Allowed me to, like, emotionally recharge and stuff like that. Because I just finished an acting intensive at Esper Studio, which has been really,
Oh,
really
awesome.
amazing, like, that has changed my acting
Mm,
completely. Even though it was through Zoom, I learned so much, and now I've just been taking time to like emotionally recharge and feel inspired again. And now
mm.
with the spring coming, and then this new project filming soon, I'm getting really, really excited. So and feeling ready for what's next.
Yes, I love that for you.
Thank you.
And of course, so good to hear, just like people in their element, and I feel like when someone's just in their element, you just like you kind of see that like glow around them.
Yeah, yeah, it's so beautiful and so inspiring. It's so good to be around that energy as a creative.
Yeah, no, definitely. So how it has been using they, she pronouns?
It's been, I guess, it's made life a little bit easier. Because before I switched to or evolved to like she, they,
Mhm.
I don't get misgendered as often because before I was just strictly going by they, them. And
Okay.
that time, and that was like still in the midst of me like figuring out my transition and all those things and all that. But it was just like I was getting misgendered all the time. And it was so stressful and triggering. And every day I would just like go home like so like distraught. Um, and as I've evolved more within my transition and started to identify more as a trans woman or trans femme, I made room for she,
Mm.
in addition to they. But of course, more people use she, her versus they, them, which is like fine with me. But it was really tough when I was just going by they, them, because so many people still don't get it, which is really annoying. But I don't know, she, they, I feel like fits and I feel really comfortable with it right now. So, yeah.
Bet that was pretty hard navigating that just as like an actor and model, right?
Um, well, I didn't really, yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really start pursuing acting until like I started using she, they.
Okay.
Yeah, but I remember the first acting class I had, which was supposed to be an LGBTQ safe space. Like the coach kept misgendering me when was telling them I used they, them, which was really annoying.
Mm.
Um, so to all like my non-binary siblings and all that, I feel for you and I see you and we will make people get they, them.
Right.
Yes.
And I know that you mentioned before to me that about 3 years ago, you kind of started your transitional journey. And I was just wondering how that kind of just the beginning was for you and just navigating in the city of, finding the right doctor, finding the treatment, and just, I guess, for, also maybe any advice for like any younger folks who are maybe just kind of going through that as well.
Yeah. So 3 years ago, I mean, navigating it was very scary just because like I didn't know what to expect. So it was like walking into this unknown, But I was really, really at that point, I did years of internal work prior to that, of all these dismantling, this stupid toxic shit that, westernization and white supremacy created and all that. And so that was really, really tough. And then finally to like make the decision to really go for it, I just really, really had to trust myself that I was doing the right thing. And I knew deep down in my heart that's what I wanted, because like growing up as a kid, like remember always telling my mom, like, oh, I wish I was a girl at like 4 years old. And, I know this story rings true for so many trans folks, of being aware of our
Mm.
truth and who we are, Um, but of course, back then there was no like language or understanding for it. But it was really, really. tough because also I didn't have anyone in my life that I could ask questions or someone that could help guide me or hold my hand. It was literally just me. And I have a lot to thank for having supportive friends and finding a safe space community to kind of like help
Yeah.
better understand this part of myself, which was bubble tea. Like they really just being in that space and seeing so many of the queer and trans API folks, living their best life. And it really, really inspired me and helped me understand myself and navigate my transition. And at the time, I was already at Apicha because of for my HIV care, and I knew that they did trans care too. So I just spoke to my doctor there about it, and we started pills on a very, very small dose, and then just like slowly built it up as like I better understood what I wanted for myself.
Mm.
And I'm still on that journey myself and figuring out what I want to do exactly. But I just recently started shots. Today is actually my shot day. So I cannot wait to shoot
Oh,
myself with some estrogen after this interview.
that's
And so it's been about 3 weeks since I've been on shots, and that's been amazing. I've noticed a big difference from being on
mm.
pills for 3 years and then doing shots for 3 weeks. It's been, yeah, it's been wow.
And
Um,
for anyone kind of navigating just that in the beginning, right? What do you kind of have maybe if someone was a little confused of like maybe either to take the pill or the shot, or is that kind of like a preference, a personal preference? Or is how was that kind of?
Well, in the beginning, they gave me the option and I chose pills because I was scared to stab
Mm,
myself with a needle.
yeah.
So that was like the main reason, to
There
be
you go.
honest.
Yeah.
But for any, other young trans women, trans femmes that are watching this, I will say that the shots are more potent
Okay.
and it's stronger versus the pills. But, if you're a little unsure or just want to take it slow, take your time, and you're still figuring things out, then I would suggest the pills because it's a bit of a slower process. And also, I started on estradiol only, so I didn't do any T
Mm,
blockers. But over time, my testosterone got to such a level that I didn't need T blockers anyways.
okay.
So there's that. But I know the traditional route is like usually people start off with the T blockers and then go on to estrogen and then do the combination. But yeah,
And what's that time period you think, like the traditional, what's that kind of time period for someone who maybe is trying to figure kind of that out from their self?
honestly, it just really
Just depends.
varies. Yeah, it just depends. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I just think that, hearing anyone's just kind of beginning and also for them figuring out was Apacha. So Apacha is a community center in New York City here. How was just that place for you? Because I know for myself, that was kind of like my first doctor experience that I felt like pretty safe. And I felt like the doctors
Mhm.
were definitely very respectful of like one's body. Do you have a good,
Yeah,
you seemed like you had a good experience there.
totally. Honestly, like having a medical or healthcare space that's dedicated to queer and trans folks that
Mhm.
understands the language, understands why our chosen name is so important, you
Mm,
know,
yeah.
because like it was just so affirming and so relieving to be able to exist peacefully in a healthcare space of all places. Like that healthcare spaces are so triggering for me. And I know for so many queer and trans folks, but to be there was, and starting out my transition and even just my HIV care it just makes the biggest difference. Even going during COVID, like the peak of it when I was getting tested and all these things, the nurses always come out or whoever comes out and like calls out my dead name. And I'm just like,
Mm,
oh my gosh. Even though I tell them that, like, oh, I go by, you know, Ian or Yan, I tell them Yan because
yeah.
Ian, like they think I am, and then they like misgender me, and it's just like a whole
Mm,
thing. Um, but like they don't understand the significance behind that. but Apicha does, and
Mhm,
even when I'm on the phone with Apicha, they don't ask for your name per se, they ask for your birth date and then your last name. And so that, just not having to like say your first name
mhm,
is just, it's just like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like
mm.
very affirming that they like, I don't know, respect and understand that. So yeah.
No, totally. And I feel like you're just so loved by your community here. And how just has your chosen family been and just like supporting you in the ways that you kind of need it?
I mean, they just like always loved me and supported me unconditionally, and they never asked me questions, they never judged me, they never said, they never asked me things like, I mean, there have been some friends, but like my main, chosen family core group of friends were never like, oh, so are you going to get the surgery and all these things? Are you going to fully transition or whatever? They're like,
Mm,
okay, you are who you are. And then when I changed my name, when I changed my pronouns, they didn't ask questions. They just were like, okay, and
mhm,
that on its own, not making a big deal out of it is that's what friends should do,
mhm,
and it's not their, they never tried to like, they were never invasive,
mm,
and a good friend would never do that. But of course I know we all start from somewhere and we all learn, at some point. um, but yeah, and they just, yeah, they were just really supportive and just, yeah, unconditionally loved and accepted me. So
and how has your family been just supporting who you are right now?
they support and love me and accept me for me, which I'm very, very fortunate to have, which is insane to like that even be something we're fortunate about. Every parent should be accepting and loving of their child. Um, they, but that's kind of like as far as it goes, and, they are Vietnamese refugees and their mindset is very different from how we think. And they've I kind of wish that they would try to understand like the queer and trans community a little bit more and why certain things matter and
Mm,
why things are triggering and things aren't, because I still get misgendered sometimes. And I don't see them very often. I see them maybe like once a year or whatever, but it still really hurts when they misgender me. Even when I look like this, I'm like, do I really look like a he to you? um, not to like, not to define, what,
mhm,
who you're supposed to look a certain way for however you identify, but it's just, it still hurts. And they get offended sometimes when I correct them, and
mm.
we get into fights and stuff. But at the end of the day, I still very much love them and am very thankful for them. So, and they support me with whatever I do. So, yeah.
Mm. And they're still in PA?
They're in Florida, honey.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I know. Thankfully, they're in like a liberal town, St.
Okay.
Petersburg. So
Okay.
there's like, it's quite a queerish town for
Mm.
Florida. Like they
Okay.
have their own pride. So I'm like, okay. And
That's a
when you
good
look at
sign.
like, yes. And when you look at like the voter map, it's like the
Mm.
one, it's
Blue.
like a blue dot. Yes. Out of like a sea of red.
I love that. And just on the topic of family, how is it kind of coming home to them now? Is and just during your transition. I know you were talking about misgendering. Have you been was it kind of nervous in the beginning at all? Or
Not really, because I was just like, whatever, I'm here. I like, I'm just like, this is me. Hello. But, I haven't seen them for like a year and a half now, or since like
oh
the
wow.
last holidays because of,
Okay.
the pandemic. And I think I've changed a lot from the last point they've seen me till now.
Yeah.
Like my boobs are a lot bigger, my hair is different, all these things. And so I think it might be a little shock for them,
Hmm.
but they've never really expressed, you know, their thoughts or shocked me, which I guess it's something I could ask them, but I'm also kind of like, do I need to? Do I have to?
Yeah.
Um, but you know, my mom follows me on Instagram. She sees what I
Mm,
post, so she, you know, she gets those updates from me. So
mm,
she like, I guess it's not a complete shock. I don't know. It's just I feel like with I don't know. I feel like they don't really have any sort of expectations of me or
mm,
ever since I was little, you know, I've always been very different. And so I
mm,
feel like they kind of let go of any sort of expectations they had for me when I was at a very young age. And they're like, okay, they're a little different. So,
mm.
um,
So over the past few weeks, we have all seen what is happening against the Asian community everywhere. And just how are you right now?
Today I'm doing much better. Last week was extremely overwhelming and I was just like in and out of it. Honestly, there was like Wednesday, I was just like in and out of crying and just really triggered and just thinking about my parents, like my mom and my aunts who, you know, worked and still work in the salons as like nail techs or hairstylists and just how they tell me stories of how, you know, they've been mistreated and discriminated and taken advantage of and just seen as like disposable service workers for so long, you know? But I just felt really bad for them and how invisible they've been and you know no one ever really took notice or stood up for us back then.
Mm,
um, but it's been really amazing to see the current or like younger generation Asian Americans finding our voices, you know, not just for ourselves, but for our parents and our grandparents and our ancestors who had to deal with the, you know, racism and discrimination and violence, you know, that America has im- directed at us for so long. Um, and it's been really empowering. Like this past weekend I went to two vigils and like one rally, and it's been really amazing to see, you know, so many Asian Americans come together, not
mm,
just Asian Americans, but you know, black and brown people and white people and people of all walks of life to really showcase this solidarity and the way we're moving into the future. It just gave me a lot of hope. Yeah.
mm. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that. And thank you so much for just being here on Queer Link today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
So thank you so much for being on Queer Link today. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.
Subscribe.